Hello guys and welcome to another World of Warcraft video. So we're starting off with the Deathcharger's Reins, the only mount that can drop off a classic dungeon boss. Now it has a drop chance of approximately 0.9% and the dungeon can be repeated. You have to go to Stratholme, which can be found in the Eastern Plaguelands in the Eastern Kingdoms. Now there's two entrances and for this run we'll take the so-called side entrance. However, there's no skipping everything, unfortunately. Now the so-called undead side of Stratholme has 3 ziggurats that need to be cleared before you can go to the last boss. Each ziggurat will have a boss that has to be killed because that will open the doors. Once you've done that, kill the trash inside and repeat that till you've done that for all 3 ziggurats. Now then head to Oria's Rivendare. You'll have to clear some trash and the boss before you're able to enter his room. And he is the one who will be able to drop the mount he's sitting on. Up next we're moving on to the Swift White Hawkstrider, which you can get from the Magis's Terrace on the Isle of Caldenas in the Eastern Kingdoms. It has a drop chance of approximately 3.7% and if you farm it regularly, it's likely that you'll acquire it soon. It only drops on Heroic, but during time walking it can also drop from the time walking mode. There's nothing really special about this, honestly. Just go through the dungeon and skip as much trash as you can. The end boss, Kiltha Sunstrider, is the one who can drop this mount. Then all the way in the Terakar Forest in Outland you'll find Sethek Halls in Auchendoon. The Reins of the Ravenlord is also heroic only and has a drop chance of about 1.6%. Nice personal anecdote here, this is the mount that took me the most tries. I think it was about 400 before I finally got it. Now skip as much as you can and once you stumble upon Anzu, kill the big bird. This is the one that could give you the mount. Now moving on to Wrath of the Lich King, we will see the mount that has probably been acquired by most, if not all people, the Bronze Drake. It has a 100% drop chance, provided you reach the infinite corruptor you'll have to kill before the timer runs out. First off, head to the Caverns of Time in Tanaris, and once you reach the large hourglass in the middle, take the first dungeon on your left, and don't forget to set it to Heroic. Head inside. The first time you do this there will be a lot of role playing. If you've never seen that, it is definitely worth your time. After that, you unfortunately cannot just race to the boss though, as you'll first have to deal with 10 waves of enemies that'll spawn. Kill them, afterwards follow the route that you see me take, and don't forget to talk to Arthas, as you otherwise will not be able to proceed. Kill the infinite dragons that spawn inside the house, Arthas will open a secret door, and you can then simply rush towards the infinite corruptor. Kill it, and there's your mount. Now the second and last mount of this expansion can actually be found in Northrend, or to be more precise in the Utgard Pinnacle in the Howling Fjord. Now the third boss has a chance to drop the blue Proto. It has an incredibly low drop chance of about 0.9%. I know this as it has eluded me so far. Now you can skip most of the dungeon, just keep on following the path and head towards Skadi the Ruthless. Now at first he'll be on his Proto Dragon and you'll have to down him by throwing 3 harpoons at him. These harpoons can be dropped by the undead vehicle and you have to loot them off the ground. Now once you receive the notification that he is in range of the launchers, fire the harpoons. You'll then be able to kill him and hopefully receive the mount. Now the first Cataclysm mount is another 100% drop chance, the Amani Battle Bear. Head to Zul'Gurub in the Ghostlands in the Eastern Kingdoms. By the way, at the moment it is a no flying zone, so you can't fly here. Anyways, once you enter, Vol'jin the Troll will have to open the gates to Zul'Gurub. Help him with this by simply clicking the gong once and stand near it. Repeatedly pressing it will not help at all. As a matter of fact, it is quite counterproductive. Now once the door has opened, you'll see a timer appear at the top of your screen. That is how long you have until a sacrifice will be executed. Killing a boss and freeing the captive will extend the timer. Do this for the first 3 bosses, and those are Akilzon, Nalarak and Janalai. The specific order in which you do these 3 doesn't really matter. And after you've done that, follow this path you see me take right now to Halasi. You will have the final captive and you'll need to free her last. Once you've freed her, she will run around blasting a couple of urns until she reaches the one that contains a bag that has your Amani Battle Bear. Up next we have the Drake of the North Wind, which can drop from the Vortex Pinnacle in Uldum. You can do this dungeon on both normal and heroic mode, meaning you can farm it repeatedly. The mount still only has a drop chance of approximately 0.7%, so it'll still take a long time. Anyways, most of the trash can be skipped, but you will have to kill the first boss in order to make the slipstream appear that'll take you to the next platform. Move forward until you reach Altairus, the drake that can drop, well, himself technically, and once you've killed him, Simply jump off the platform and you'll be taken back to the entrance, run outside and reset the instance, rinse and repeat. Now the next Cataclysm mount is conceptually the same, but it is from a different dungeon. Its name is the Vitreous Stone Drake. It can drop from Slab Height in the Stone Core, and it also has a similar drop chance to the Drake of the North Wind, and you can technically also just repeat the dungeon as it also drops in normal mode. Now, unfortunately though, you will not be able to skip trash here, as you'll have to make sure the gnome Millhouse Manastorm keeps moving back. He is indirectly responsible for spawning the first boss, so it's a little bit of RP. Anyways, once that has happened, kill it. Then move ahead a little bit and you'll find yourself in a gauntlet of falling rocks. Go down the hill and there you'll find Slab Height waiting. Kill him. Upon death, a portal will spawn behind him which you can take to go back to the entrance. Go outside, reset the instance, rinse and repeat until you have it. Now next, we have our first dungeon that can drop 2 separate mounts. It is Zul'Gurub in Stranglethornville in the Eastern Kingdoms. The first mount is the Armored Razashi Raptor, which can drop from Bloodlord Mandukir. Simply head towards him. Your most dangerous obstacle will be some rocks rolling down the hill, and that is it really. Once you've killed him, there you go. The mount has a drop chance of approximately 0.7%, so it will take some time, unfortunately. The next mount in this dungeon is the Swift Zulian Panther. It has a slightly higher drop rate with 0.9%. Now simply head towards High Priestess Ohn'ahra and kill her. There's nothing special to it, beside the fact that you'll be coming back here for quite some time, considering the low drop rates of both mounts. Now we'll be skipping Mists of Pandaria and Warless of Draenor as there are no mount drops from the dungeons in both expansions. Instead we'll move straight towards Legion, to another dungeon that is able to provide you with 2 mounts in one run. Go to the Return to Karazhan dungeon, which can be found in Deadwind Pass in the Eastern Kingdoms. Important to note is that you'll switch the dungeon level to Mythic here. The first mount we'll be going for is the Smouldering Ember Worm. It has a drop chance of 20% if you're on your own. Now the chance can increase based on if you're there with others. Regardless, this is the first puzzle mount, which also happens to be connected to a timer. In essence, you have to click 5 crystals, the first one within 8 minutes of entering the dungeon. Every time you'll click a crystal, the timer will be extended by a couple of minutes. The locations are as follows. 1 crystal is right after completing the Opera event, 1 crystal just before the Maiden of Virtue, 1 crystal spawns once you kill Morose, 1 can be found in the Spider Room, and 1 after you kill the Curator. Simply follow the route I take, and you'll be fine. Now once you've clicked the 5th crystal, you will get a different buff and you'll have to head to the Master Stairs to talk with Medivh. Talk with him, a short bit of RP follows, and Nightbait will spawn. Kill him, and you have a chance to acquire your very own awesome burning undead dragon. Now the next mount in this dungeon can actually be killed whilst you're doing the previous event, or if you're new to all of it, simply do it afterwards. Midnight can be found in the Ivory stables, which you'll pass on the route you take from Morose to the Spider Room. There's nothing special here, simply kill the boss and the mount could drop. It has a 1.3% drop chance, so you won't see it around much. Now moving on to Battle for Azeroth, we'll see loads of mythic dungeons with mount drops at the end. The first one being the Tomb Stalker, which can drop from King's Rest in Zul'Gurub. Fly over to the entrance, which is all the way in the back of a massive troll mausoleum. There's honestly nothing special about the instance, but it'll take a while as there are bits of RP and trash that have to be killed in order for doors to open. Now the final boss will be able to drop this mount, and has a drop chance of anywhere between 1 to 3%. The next mythic dungeon can be found in Nazmir. It's called the Underrot. In comparison to King's Rest, it is incredibly easy to solo. Pretty much all thrash is skippable apart from the last two before the final boss. After they are killed, a Titanic Watcher will spawn who will take you to the Unbound Abomination. Kill him for a possible drop of the World of Crawg. It has an incredibly low drop chance. And now if you thought that was quick, the third mythic dungeon of this expansion is even faster. We're heading to Freehold, which can be found in Tiragard Sound. The entrance is a bit hidden away, but that's the only difficult thing about this instance. You can skip pretty much anything here and pretty much head to the final boss straight away. His name is Harlan Sweet. Kill him and he'll have a chance to drop Sharkbait, a cool parrot with a hook for a leg. Now just like the Underrot Crawg, it has an incredibly low drop chance. Now we're not done with BFA just yet, as there is one more dungeon to do. This dungeon can result in 2 mount drops, and I'll be combining both mounts that could be acquired in Mechagon into one. There is a hard mode for this instance which will trigger the drop of the aerial unit R21X. It has a 20% drop chance per person present. To trigger this hard mode, there is a specific way to do this dungeon. First off, the 4th boss of the dungeon will be flying around one of the first 3 bosses. Kill that boss. Repeat that process until you've killed all 3. If you've done this successfully, that 4th boss, which is the HK8 aerial oppression unit, will be available for a kill. Once you reach him, you will see a creature called the Tankbuster MK2. Seeing that mech means you've done the first part correctly, otherwise you would see a different mech altogether. Now first off, this boss can drop another mount called the Mechagon Peacekeeper. It is a rare mythic only drop, and there's no specific way of having to do this dungeon in order for that mount to drop. However, considering we're also doing the hard mode, it is a little bit more difficult. So the strategy for this boss is to simply get a lot of speed gear or be a class that has a lot of movement speed like a monk or a demon hunter. After killing the Tankbuster MK2, the boss will head into an overdrive and starts to cast an insta-kill ability. Now this ability can be at ranged, and that is exactly what our strategy will be. Once it starts to cast, head straight back to the gnome village and stand next to the innkeeper. Once the cast has been completed, run back as fast as you can. Most of the times the boss will simply reach you and start to follow you around like a dog. Sometimes it resets and you'll have to try this again. Now that we've tamed the boss, walk up to one of the pylons that seems to have a power fluctuation going on. Then start channeling on it for around 50 seconds. Once that amount of time has been spent channeling, the boss can be damaged and thus killed. Moving on with the hard mode, head into Mechagon through a small opening behind the HK8 aerial oppression unit. You'll immediately reach another boss, which is honestly rather simple. It's a dual boss called No Mercy for You and the Platinum Pummeler. First off, kill No Mercy for You, and then place the Platinum Pummeler below the hammers in the arena. He has a shield that reduces his damage taken by 99%, and each hammer that hits him will reduce this amount by 33%. Then just follow the general road for a bit and you'll stumble upon a boss called Cujo. Now near him you'll find a clickable pile of robo poo. Click that pile and it's tossed into an oven, which will activate the hard mode of this boss. Proceed to kill him. Follow the path once more, kill whatever you encounter, and eventually you'll reach an annoying gauntlet where you have to stealth through. Follow the path I take. There's a very specific moment where you can easily walk through without being hit by the alarm bolts. Now another boss, another easy kill, and shortly after that you'll eventually reach a flying machine that will take you up to King Mechagon. In his encounter platform you'll find a clickable red button. This will only appear if you've completed all of the discussed elements. Press that button and kill the ad, followed by the giant mech suit. Then wait for a bit, otherwise you will not be able to loot King Mechagon. Once the king has landed, simply one-shot him. Moving on to the Shadowlands, we have our first mythic mount drop with Marrowfang's Reins from the Necrotic Wake in Bastion. It has an incredibly low drop rate, just like all the previous mythic mounts. This dungeon is fairly simple, but you will have to kill all bosses. All can be killed quite easily, but Surgeon Stitchflash has a very specific tactic. He will spawn abominations called Stitchflash's creation. At some point they will throw a hook in a specific direction. Make sure that hook is aimed at the boss. If done correctly, the abomination will grab the boss and place him on the ground, thus making him killable. After that, head to Nalthor the Rhinebinder and kill him. He can drop the mount. The second Shadowlands mount is incredibly easy to acquire. It is the Slime Serpent, which can be acquired from clearing the Plagueful dungeon on either Heroic or Mythic mode whilst alone. Simply kill all the bosses, and after killing the final boss, head back up to the area of the third boss, where you'll now find your Slime Serpent awaiting you in this pool of liquid goo. The third and final Shadowlands dungeon will drop another two mounts, one being hard mode specific and the other one being a drop from the final boss, Solea. Tavazesh is its own zone and you can only fly there if you completed a small quest chain that starts at the Innkeeper in Oribos. Once you've done that, head over there and first go into the heroic version of the dungeon. The reason behind that is that we're going to acquire an item that is needed for hard mode mythic. We have to do that in order to acquire the Tavazesh Gear Glider. A pretty cool looking disc. Anyways, kill the first boss. It is rather easy. Then follow the road for a minor bit and take the first possible right. In the corner you'll see a broker called Questionable Trader and you'll be able to buy the fraudulent credentials from him. Next, head over to Al-Maiza's Oasis and do the entry gauntlet. Talk to the vendor just before the entrance and buy the one buyable item. It is then dropped on the floor. Pick it up and bring it to the appropriate vendor. You will keep upgrading it for 3 times until one of the vendors gives you the password to enter the bar. When inside the bar, follow the route you see me take and talk to Al-Manal. He'll sell you an upgraded version of the fraudulent credentials. Equip it and you'll be able to pick up a quest from Al-Manal. Then walk back to the entrance, get out, set the dungeon difficulty to Mythic and enter once again. This time, however, talk to a new NPC called Fetajit before going to the gate guards. He'll give you an upgrade for your item once again and you'll be able to talk to the gate guards. They will let you in. Then talk to the first boss, who'll see through your disguise, so kill him. Pretty much all bosses up until Solea can be zerged down at that moment, but the Al-Maiza's Oasis boss is a bit different. You have to pick up a music instrument and use the extra action button to charge in the same direction as the notes that will appear on the ground. Eventually the boss will spawn. Kill him. Then proceed with killing all the other bosses and eventually you'll reach Solea. Now she's not that difficult, but her second phase will give her a 99% damage reduction that can only be broken if there's 5 players standing in the orb she sends out. Since you are likely alone, that means you're in for a long fight. It is not difficult at all, it just takes a bit of time. Now Solea has a chance to drop a mount as well, the Cartel Master's Gear Glider. This one has a fairly low drop chance of around 2%. Luckily though, creating this video actually got me this mount. By the way, if you're only in it for this one, this mount can also drop on Heroic, so you can do that. We're solely doing Mythic for the hard mode achievement. Anyways, once you've grinded down Solea in 15 minutes or so, you'll get the achievement and the mount. Maybe even both mounts if you're lucky enough. Then we move on to the latest expansion of World of Warcraft, Dragonflight. Now officially there are no direct mount drops from any of the dungeons, but there are some mounts that require a mandatory dungeon run or two. The first one is the Ivory trader's Ottuk, which can be brought from, and bear with me, Tatukiaka in Iskara. He'll want to have 3 rings for this one, and each of these rings can drop in a different dungeon. The first ring is the Unstable Arcane Loop, which can drop from Laymore in the Azure Archives. It's one of the first bosses, so you only need to kill this boss. For me, though, and this won't apply to everyone, it was soloable on normal. Now the ring has about a 25% drop chance, so it may take you several tries before you get it. The second ring is the Platinum Starband, which drops from the Algathar Academy. To be more specific, it drops from Veximus, who you can just go to straight away. It has a similar drop chance to the other rings, though this one can also be acquired from a quest that requires you to complete the entire dungeon. So if you're not willing to repeatedly run this dungeon, you can simply do that quest. Now the third ring is the Thunderous Downburst ring, which we can drop from the Raging Tempest in the Nokud Offensive. Same applies here, you can immediately go to this boss and kill it. Similar drop chance as well. Now just an FYI, you can mix rings of various difficulties in order to buy the mount. Also, if you find normal mode too difficult to solo, I would recommend doing the follower dungeon version of the dungeon instead and just have the followers follow you around. Once you have the 3 rings, you can buy the mount in Iskara. Now the second mount of Dragonflight is the so-called Divine Kiss of Ohn'ahra, though there is a bit of a prerequisite here. You have to reach Renown 9 with the Marrowfang Centaur, and you have to complete the Lizzie mount quest chain before the items for this mount can drop. The Renown level can easily be reached by doing the main storyline, and the Lizzie quest can be done in the Ohn'ahra Springs. After you've completed the initial side quest, you'll have to do a new quest every day for 5 days, which will also provide you with the Lizzie mount. Now anyways, once that is out of the way, the final boss of the Nokud Offensive can start dropping an item called Stolen Breath of Ohn'ahra. You will need 3 of these. Now, regardless of the difficulty, the item can drop, so you can decide to do this on Follower, Normal, Heroic, Mythic or Mythic Plus difficulty. After you've acquired all 3, you will be able to acquire a quest from Godoloto. For this quest, you'll need to approach Ohn'ahra. Now before you go and do that, first go and collect these 2 other items. After you have those, walk up to Ohn'ahra and you will get the Divine Kiss of Ohn'ahra. Now the final dungeon mount we currently have is not actually a mount on its own. It is an item that can transform into a so-called legacy mount. The Reins of the Quantum Courser can turn into quite a few of the mounts we previously discussed, but some others as well. This item can drop from Chronoloord Deos in the Dawn of the Infinite Mega Dungeon, or if you decide to do the separated version, go and do Murzen's Rise. The item can drop on both Mythic or Mythic Plus difficulty. Now the easiest way to do this is honestly by going into the group finder and look up a low Mythic Plus key group that is heading into this dungeon, like a +2 for example. It'll be very easy to clear. Now all the mounts are previously discussed. Some of them can be part of the Mythic Plus season, or some of them can be part of Time Walking. Whenever such an event occurs, these dungeons can drop on that difficulty as well, so keep that in mind. Anyways, now that you know everything about all the dungeon mounts, I wish you a happy hunt and may the loot gods treat you well. Thank you very much for watching, I will see you the next time, and bye bye.